Let him in!
Piece of cake.
Hey, you want to be a farmer?
Here's a couple of acres.
1993 was a good year for cinema. There was the release of various movies that some would consider classics, one being the classic, legendary classic, franchise starter as well, Jurassic Park, The Fugitive, Schindler's List, Mrs. Doubtfire, Cliffhanger, and Philadelphia. Most of these films were top 10 in box office returns. Of course, there are many other films that are classics that are not top 10 box office returns. Example, Groundhog Day, Gettysburg, and RoboCop 3. Okay, maybe not RoboCop 3. But there was a film that can be considered a cult classic, and its name is The Last Action Hero. The Last Action Hero is a fantasy action, maybe meta, comedy film directed by and produced by John McTiernan, co-written by Shane Black. Yeah, he was responsible for the disappointing Iron Man 3. I thought Iron Man 3 was disappointing. Others say different. But the film stars the Arnold, Austin O'Brien, and Charles Dance. Now, the film parodies the 80s action film. The Arnold plays Jack Slater, a fictional LAPD cop within the fictional action series. Slater, who's a typical maverick, when it comes to I do it my way, rambunctiously. But along the way, he meets a young boy named Danny who loves action films and is a way for the boy to cope after the death of his father. Danny frequents an old rundown movie theater in New York City. One of his ventures there, he receives a magical ticket once owned by Harry Houdini from the movie theater owner. The ticket grants Danny an early screening at Jack Slater 4 before its release. But little does Danny know, the ticket will magically transport Danny into the Slater universe to move forward and quickly through the plot. Danny encounters Jack on a car chase within the movie. The two team up, but along the way, Danny informs Slater of all the magical goofballness of Slater's world, which Slater dismisses and is kind of annoyed by it. But it's up to Slater and Danny with the fictional movie, of course, to stop crime boss Tony, played by Hollywood great Anthony Quinn, and his right-hand man, Mr. Benedict, played by Tywin Lannister, aka Charles Dance. Just a side note, anything that Charles Dance is in, his characters always command a strict presence. And sometimes they're, you know what? His acting is always on cue. Let's just say that. No matter how stupid the movie is. But anyways, it's up to our main heroes to stop Tony's plan to murder a rival mob boss. Also, Danny returns to the real world. But like I said, Charles Dance has a commanding presence in this film and takes over as the main antagonist, as well as Jack Slater's old enemy that we see in the beginning of the movie, the Ripper. Jack and Danny venture into Danny's world on a chase to stop Mr. Benedict from his plan of killing the real-life Arnold Schwarzenegger, who Jack Slater hates terribly, at the Jack Slater 4 premiere that contains many cameos from fellow movie stars and other celebrities. The climax ends with Jack and Danny stopping Mr. Benedict, as well as avoiding the clutches of the Ripper and death from the film The Seventh Seal, played by Magneto himself, Ian McKellen, who suggests the two find the other half of the magical ticket that was mangled by the film's antagonist. Jack and his time of dying after a freaking, no, I can't call it a Mexican stand-up, but after a brouhaha, a scuffle with Mr. Benedict, he returns to his own world, finally embracing the true nature of his reality, while Danny and the owner of the movie theater, named Nick, share a heartfelt moment. Well, like I said, that's just a mild summary of the film. But the film was very enjoyable if you want a film to escape the reality, no pun intended. Now, the film did not do well as Columbia Pictures and McTiernan had hoped. It was billed as the summer blockbuster on par with the Arnold's previous summer blockbuster from 2 years ago, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, which has, in this movie, Robert Patrick as T-1000 in a cameo. In addition, Slater's world, Sylvester Stallone as Terminator in Terminator 2, as an ode to Stallone and the Arnold's friendly rivalry. Moving on to summer blockbuster part, it didn't happen. This film finished second behind Jurassic Park though in its opening weekend, Last Action Hero's opening weekend, and ended its run at $50 million US and Canada. while Jurassic Park finished at $357 million after its run in US and Canada. Yeah. Didn't work out the way Sony planned. Now, $357 million is really nothing now. Some people make that in 2 weeks. But that was a lot back then. The last action hero in total in the last 30 years of its existence received a whopping $137.3 million worldwide. That's a budget for a Marvel film. Almost. But $137.3 million worldwide on an $85 million budget. I think Arnold was paid $15 million. I think for Terminator 2, I think Arnold received a Gulfstream 3 jet worth $12.75 million. Yeah, Arnold was getting paid big time when he was the big time star in the late 80s and 90s. But anyway, some consider this film a bust. The film was considered a financial loss at $26 million to, what's it called? Sony? Yeah, Sony. Universal was forced to move Jurassic Park to June 11, 1993, after Sony decided to release this film on June 18th. I don't think it mattered anyway. Jurassic Park was destined to become an all-time classic, and as we all know, it has erupted into a 6-part film series with, you know, merchandise, comic books, video games, theme park attractions. But anyways, it's not important. We're not talking about Jurassic Park. Now, this film can be seen as silly. It has quite a few flaws, but I find it entertaining, mainly because it's the Arnold's prime. His quotes are hilarious. Let the quotes go on.
Piece of cake.
Hey, you want to be a farmer?
Here's a couple of acres.
Pay thy hand, fair prince.
Who said I'm fair?
Hi, is that guy Kona Phrase?
To be or not to be? Not to be. Yes. Could I speak to the drug dealer of the house, please?
I beg your pardon?
It's a beautiful day, and we're out killing drug dealers. Are there any in the house? You killed my father. Big mistake.
But outside of all the hoopla, the film was actually trying to do something new. Instead of doing the same old, it was making fun of the 80s action film and its hijinks. I love that it spoofed the action film. From what I read, some critics found the film confusing and a mess. I would call it a beautiful and entertaining mess. But this film did receive a lot of Golden Raspberry Awards nomination, mainly Arnold getting some of the awards himself. But who cares? Those quotes are funny. It's weird that Arnold blamed the film's poor performance on the bad press, but the election of Bill Clinton had influenced the people to see action film stars as a lowbrow. Wow. Things have changed since then. Well, it's funny. With both of these men, Clinton and Arnold, never mind. You know what I want to say about those two. But after 30 years, I encourage you all who haven't seen this film to go see it if you love the sometimes wonkiness of parody films, or even Arnold himself. I think currently he's on Netflix. I'm not for sure, but I bought it on Amazon for cheap on Blu-ray a couple years ago. But anyways, I'm out. That's all I gotta say. Hey, make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button too. What are you waiting for? Just do it. It's free. Duh.